Hello and welcome to this game review of two chess legends facing off. Also former world champions, Magnus Carlsen and Vishy Anand. This game took place in a Super United Croatia Blitz portion of this tournament, and Magnus Carlsen won all 9 games on the day. So all 9 of his games he won in this Blitz portion. Today, as I make this video, the tournament is ongoing and will conclude today, but Carlsen is in the lead. And so this game began with Vishy Anand playing e4, and Carlsen responds with c6, the Caro-Kann defense. And so knight to f3, developing this knight to help control the center, and d5 is played, which is the reason c6 is played in the Caro-Kann to help fortify this pawn push on d5. And now an interesting move by Anand. He plays d3 here, just fortifying this e4 pawn, which is also under attack. And Carlsen captures the pawn. After a recapture, this allows Carlsen to capture the queen, and queens are exchanged very early in this game. But after the king recaptures, now Anand can no longer castle. But with queens off the board, this is not as much of a concern, having the king stuck in the middle, as there are no queens, no queen to target this king. All right, the game continues with Carlsen playing knight to f6, attacking the central pawn. And another interesting move by Anand. Instead of developing a knight or a bishop to guard this pawn, he instead retreats his knight that was already developed to protect this pawn, and it blocks in his bishop here on c1. So usually you don't want to do that, but this is a former world champion playing these moves, so I'm sure he has his reasons behind this. So now, another unusual move. Magnus Carlsen plays an early pawn push here on the king side with g5. And then a counter by Anand, a4, gaining space on the queen side. And g4 here, further pushing this pawn, which will play an important part in the game, as we'll see. So now, bishop to d3 here, further fortifying this pawn in the center here. And Carlsen just develops his other knight. And so does Anand. So both sides developing pieces, slowly putting more influence towards the center of the board. And this knight jumps here to blockade this pawn, and also attacking the bishop in the center here. And so this attack on the bishop is ignored, and another knight move by Anand, moving this knight to c4 to allow the bishop to develop here that was blocked in. All right, so now Carlsen captures the bishop here, and after a recapture, if we look at the position, it looks like Anand is slightly ahead in development. He has 2 pieces developed to Carlsen's 1. He also has 2 central pawns compared to 1 by Carlsen. And so the game continues with bishop to e6. And once again, a move where the bishop here blocks in the e-pawn, which blocks in this this bishop on f8, although the bishop will more than likely develop along this diagonal. But we see here that this bishop to e6 move was played to try and prevent this D pawn from pushing forward. So now this pawn cannot push forward and try and control the center here, as the knight would just be captured. So an interesting move by Carlsen. And so the king moves off of this half open file here, which more than likely a rook will try and take control of. And the bishop develops here to g7 as this pawn is blocked in by the other bishop. All right, bishop to e3. So everybody, both sides are completing development of the rest of their pieces. And here this knight is moved back to allow the bishop to attack down this diagonal here. And now we have this move, rook to c1 to bolster this knight. And another reason that this knight was moved, allowing the bishop to attack here, this pawn would probably like to push up to b4. But at the moment, that was not possible, as this knight would be captured. And so the rook moves here to protect this knight, and now this b pawn will be able to push forward. So it's interesting how we see Magnus Carlsen attacking Anand's pieces and preventing pawn moves as the pawns were supporting those pieces. He did it here with this bishop attacking the knight here, preventing this pawn from moving. And now the same was done here, an attack on this knight, preventing this pawn from moving. All right, f5 is played by Carlsen, and Anand captures. And now this bishop recaptures. And here we see both sides are stuck with isolated pawns, which may be weak points because no pawns are beside them to help protect them. Only pieces can protect these isolated pawns. All right, knight to e4 is played here. And now we have castling by Carlsen. So he castles, puts his king into a relatively safe position, and this rook may attack down this half-open f-file here. All right, b4 is played. So finally, this pawn is able to push forward, gaining space on the queen side. And Carlsen repositions his knight where it influences the center more and attacks this knight here. So now we have a knight and a bishop piling up on this knight. And so if the knight were to capture and the pawn recaptures, Carlsen would go ahead a pawn there. So Anand takes care of that problem by immediately capturing. And here we have the bishop capturing. If the pawn captured to get rid of this isolated pawn, that may allow this knight to jump up into black's position. So the bishop captures, and so the pawn and the bishop help to keep this knight away from the center here, away from black's side of the board. But since the knight cannot go in this direction, he jumps to the edge of the board, attacking this b7 pawn. And so far, this game has been pretty much dead even with the evaluation on the computer. Here we see black is slightly ahead. And now this move, rook to d8 here, putting pressure with this bishop on this pawn. And now we have Anand ignoring this and counterattacking here, capturing a pawn, attacking this rook. So the rook recaptures this central pawn. So now we have an important central pawn has been captured, but on Carlsen's queen side, the pawns have been broken apart by capturing this center pawn. Now he has two isolated pawns here, as well as the isolated central pawn. All right, now knight to c5 is played, bringing this knight back into the center, blocking this pawn here. And the rook moves to a3. So now this final rook, which was doing nothing much here on the h1 square, moves to the center to help fight for control of this open d file. And rook to b8 to attack this pawn. And we see rook to c4, protecting the pawn. And now the king moves towards the center of the board to try and put more influence on this central area. And we have knight to d7 here, attacking this bishop. But Carlsen ignores that for the moment, playing rook to a2, checking the king. And after the king retreats, we see that black is slightly more ahead here, about a quarter of a pawn worth of material. And so the bishop moves to e6 here, attacking white's rook. So the rook captures this pawn, and now we have an exchange of pieces here, and it's starting to look a little bit dangerous with these rooks deep in Carlsen's position, and Anand also has a pawn majority here, but the computer evaluation is dead even at the moment. And so after a recapture here, now we have rook capturing on a7 was played. And if we look at that, immediately after this move is played, the evaluation jumps to +1, or excuse me, 1.25 pawns worth of material in black's favor here. So this was the first big mistake of the game right here. So the computer wanted to see white, instead of capturing the pawn with that rook, it looks like a bishop capture was the way forward here. So quite interesting that one move, after an even game for so long, this one inaccuracy leads to problems for white here. So if we go back, after rook captures on a7, this allows bishop to d4 here, attacking the rook. And this bishop cannot capture now on d4 here, because if we have bishop captures, then rook to b1 will be played with a checkmate here. The only thing white can do is block for the moment, but then the rook would just recapture with checkmate. So since bishop takes d4 cannot be played, if we go back, after this move by Carlsen attacking the rook, and this forces the rook to move, and so after this move, rook to c7, if we look at the evaluation, it has jumped even further in favor of black here, and it looks like the best move is bishop captures on e3, which is what Carlsen does here. And then the computer wants rook to c2 here, but Anand plays the second best move, capturing with the pawn. But now we see it is over 2 pawns worth of material in Carlsen's favor. And after rook captures on g2 here, Anand resigns the game. And it looks like Anand perhaps has a possibility of pushing this pawn forward, but in this position the computer recommends king to f1, and then black would just capture another pawn here and have 2 passed pawns which can march down the board. So if we look at what would happen if this pawn were to be pushed forward, well, the evaluation jumps even more in black's favor, and it looks like the best move would be to just capture here. And now a6 would be the best move. But after rook to b1 here, white would be forced to block this checkmate threat. But then here the computer recommends let's see, make sure I get this right. All right, it recommends this move here. Okay, and then white's best move would be to move this down here to c2. Interesting. So if that is played, I'll go ahead and play it out because it is kind of interesting to see how the game may have ended if it was played further. So then computer recommendation is to capture here, and black is just ahead in material. So after capture and recapture. So I don't know, that is interesting that that's what the computer recommends as best for black, but clearly that's losing. So that would be a game to, especially that end game, check it out, play it for yourself and see what you think. But Magnus Carlsen won this game, and he went on to win all 9 of his blitz games in a day, and now he is leading the field in this tournament, and he defeated some impressive players too. So feel free to go online and check that out. The Super United Croatia tournament, which had a rapid portion first, which I believe Carlsen was in second place in that, and he is leading the blitz portion, and he had won so many games, those 9 games, that it put him in first place for the entire tournament so far, and the conclusion is ongoing today. All right, well, I don't want this video to be too much longer, so if you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe. Feel free to leave comments or suggestions. And check out my Nick Butts Chess channel where you can enjoy more videos. Thank you, everyone, and have a great day.